Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health, Wellness Forum Institute, and Make Americans Free Again. We're currently taking applications for the next group of Food Over Medicine clubs, which will start in September. And we're always taking applications from people who want to start a Make Americans Free Again tribe. We're building an informed society, and particularly in the areas of health, medicine, and legal. So if you want to help us do that, tribes and Food Over Medicine clubs are some of the ways we go about that. Big free event coming up next week, Make Americans Healthy Again, Wellness Forum style. Totally different thing from what the government's doing. 9 hours of health education. It's free. It's June 10, 11, and 12 from 8 to 11 Eastern Time. We'll record it, of course, because no matter when we have these things, somebody can't attend or a whole lot of somebodies can't attend. So you'll have access to the recordings. And some of the topics are things I know you want to know about, like what's all this controversy about dietary fat and cholesterol and health and DMSO, is it a miracle supplement or is it snake oil? Thyroid health, a discussion about nutrition policy in America today, things that I think you don't know, but you need to, and why it should matter to you. And lots more too. And, those of you who've participated in our free events before know we always give special gifts to the people who sign up and attend or watch the recordings later. So if you want to register, send me an email at pampopper@wellnessforum.com. And then our membership drive is going on forever. We're building the membership at Wellness Forum. And if you buy a membership, we'll give you a gift certificate equal to the dues that you pay. And then you can apply those to things like the Food Over Medicine Retreat and the Autoimmune Disease Boot Camp that's coming up and the Research Boot Camp I just added. All right, so let's get to the news. And I'm going to start with something I'm sure you heard about, which is the MAHA report, Make Americans Healthy Again, from the government, not the Wellness Forum style, which was released last week. The Make Americans Healthy Commission issued a report that was advertised as, quote, a clear evidence-based foundation for taking action on several issues related to children's health. There was a lot of excitement about this report, followed by a lot of disappointment when it was discovered that the authors had likely used artificial intelligence to write it, or at least to proofread it, and several of the studies cited either didn't exist or were attributed to authors who didn't write them. For example, Columbia University professor Catherine Keyes was listed as the author of a paper on mental health and substance abuse. She told the New York Times that she had not written a paper by the title used in the report, and there's no article with this title by any other author either, so it doesn't exist. The report also cited a study on direct-to-consumer advertising by drug companies, which the report stated was published in The Lancet in 2005. Now, this paper exists, but it was an editorial piece, not a study, and it was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association 5 years earlier than the date that was used in the citation, not in The Lancet. The author also was different than the one listed in the MAHA report as well. Yet another citation that referred to a paper about sleep inflammation and insulin sensitivity included a co-author who didn't work on the paper, excluded a researcher who did, and also listed the wrong journal. The report stated that changes made in psychiatry's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5, involving criteria for ADHD and bipolar disease in children, resulted in a 40-fold increase in diagnoses between 1994 and 2003. The problem is the DSM-5 wasn't published until 2013. Some of the data seems to have come from a 2007 study, which covered bipolar disorder but didn't mention any increases in ADHD. So all of this super concerning, as you might imagine, because this just goes to the references. God only knows what else isn't right in that report. As some of you know, I've been talking about the problems with artificial intelligence in healthcare for a while in these videos. It's wildly inaccurate. It delivers false answers more often than not. And when an updated version of the report was issued following this terribly embarrassing incident, it certainly should be a warning to all of us that RFK and MAHA are not going to be the solution to our problems. If this is the way we start out, if it's this sloppy going in, God only knows what's going to happen next. I mean, I always assume positive intent, but it is incomprehensible to me that this could happen. And the reason is that RFK and the people he's working with have to know that everything they say and write is subject to extreme criticism because it bucks existing beliefs and it challenges multi-trillion dollar special interests. So this is either sloppiness of a magnitude that is just hard to imagine, or these people just don't know how to conduct research and report findings. Not a good sign, but maybe an indicator that we citizens had better get off our own rear ends and if we want to improve health in this country. So, and by the way, this is also a very good illustration of why Make Americans Free Again doesn't collaborate with anybody else. It's just too risky. This is a reputation destroyer. And for somebody like me and my company and what we've stood for almost 30 years, we just can't afford it. Make Americans Free Again can't afford it either. So if we want things better to be better in our country, we can't rely on politicians or doctors or Maha or something or somebody outside of us to fix our problems. In large part, we ended up in the mess we found ourselves a few years ago due to citizen abdication and our own ignorance about a lot of things, including public health and government overreach. You know, they say ignorance is bliss, and it can be until there's a disaster that it leads to, right? So I've looked at, it just seems there's so many people who think that you show up for an election every couple of years and you're doing your part. That's part of doing your part, but there's more work involved in being an engaged citizen. And if you really care about our country, and I really care about our country, and I know a lot of you guys do too, then we have to do more than that. How we take away powers from the powers that be is to change our attitudes and our behaviors for things that really matter, like connections to one another, good health care, protecting children, preserving our freedoms. What we do at the local level is much more important than what happens in government agencies in Washington or even in the Oval Office. Power returns to we the people when we reclaim it, and it's not done by declaration, but rather by rolling up our sleeves and getting to work. So my vision of how we fix things in the United States is that we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Food Over Medicine and Make Americans Free Again groups all over the country, blanketing the US, which together form the most powerful lobby in the history of the country by virtue of sheer numbers of active members. So if you like that vision, get involved and help us. And I'll come back to that in just a second because I want to share something else with you that I think is important to share. So we have another case. We just filed it yesterday with the United States Supreme Court. It's the Harrington case. If you remember, if you've been watching for a while, this is a child who was given a COVID vaccine at school without parental permission by a pediatrician who happened to be the family pediatrician and had been told by both parents on numerous occasions that none of their three children were going to get this vaccine. And he decided to do it Anyway, the doctor and the healthcare institution that administered the shot have claimed that they're protected by the PrEP Act. And in the very liberal state of Maine, it's really hard to overcome that. So we ended up at the Supreme Court requesting that they hear the case. Now, the court is going to recess soon after issuing a bunch of really long waited for decisions on important issues. So we probably won't hear anything about this for a while. But I want to share with you something about the attorney in Maine, Ron Jenkins, who shepherded this case through the court system to get to the place where we could file it at the Supreme Court. An interesting email exchange between Ron and a Maine resident illustrates the value of what we're doing beyond just the cases we file in court. Now, I'm going to paraphrase what happened in the email exchange in the interest of brevity, but essentially, a woman wrote to Ron, she lives in Maine, about challenges in enrolling her son in a particular high school that would allow him to attend a trade school. The writer states that she had a background in public affairs and was formerly a professional advocate for parental rights and vaccine safety because her daughter was vaccine injured. Her son, who she was trying to get into this particular high school, was not vaccinated. The high school initially would not enroll the child, despite this experienced mother's advocacy and insistence. In response, she told the school that if they would not immediately enroll her son, she would retain Ron Jenkins to take care of the issue. She writes, quote, "From that point on, their entire tone changed and they accepted his medical exemption. I have the great majority of this in writing via email." So Ron writes back to her a very nice letter saying, I'm glad it worked out so well for you. And then he explained some of what he had been doing in the state of Maine that might have made the state of the high school personnel a little worried about getting Ron involved. He says, right, quote, I was able to stop the medical board from revoking the license of a doctor who was writing vaccine exemptions letters, stop the state from vaccinating an elderly man in a care home in disregard of the objections of his guardian, and to force a medical practice to fairly compensate a doctor it had run out for refusing to be vaccinated. I sued the governor and her cabinet to try to remove the COVID mandates on constitutional grounds, and though by the time the court addressed the claims, the mandates were winding down and the case was dismissed as moot, I was told by at least one politician that having the case pending did help to curb some of the excesses. I worked on numerous other litigations around the country as part of other legal teams, including cases against EcoHealth Alliance and against Fauci and the NIH. I have another case defending a doctor against the medical board. The doctor is known not to push vaccination, and this is the real purpose of the disciplinary proceeding, to get access to his medical records and build a case to shut him down in Maine. So, in other words, our Maine attorney has a reputation in Maine. The state's not anxious to pick a fight with him. And this is what citizens in charge really looks like. And we need more of it. So, I'm super proud of what we've done in Maine. I'm super proud of the fact that dropping Ron's name is potentially getting involved in something like this is enough to say, okay, no problem. I just will go on ahead and admit him to school. This is what citizens in charge means, and we need more of it. So if you're interested in citizens in charge, you have to be one of the citizens who steps up to be in charge, right? So we're back to where I started this video. Let's start Make Americans Free Again tribes all over. Let's blanket the country with them. Let's start food over medicine clubs all over the country so we can build huge coalitions of people who are interested in healthcare of a better sort than what we're currently getting delivered to us from the healthcare system we're somewhat stuck with now. We have to build something different if we want it, you know. If we want something, we have to take responsibility for delivering it. So once again, interested in starting a Food Over Medicine Club or a MAFA tribe, email me at pampoper@wellnessforum.com. Donate. The money is we so appreciate the money. We broke even last month on money in and legal fees out, but we're in a precarious situation. We got to do that every single month, right? So any amount of money helps. We do accept stock donations, and that can be advantageous from a tax perspective for some people. And you can go to makeamericansfreeagain.com and buy merchandise from our store, and that helps us as well. So that's the news for today. And, I'm really hoping for the best for what's going on in Washington with MAHA. But again, I'll emphasize why we're super cautious about getting involved with other people, because you just don't know what they're going to do. Sometimes they surprise you with great stuff. Sometimes they surprise you with not so great stuff, right? So anyway, that's it for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it and learning from me, and I will be back to you next week with more news. Thank you so much for watching.